Hey guys, welcome to For Those Who Code. In this video, we'll be learning about CSS Flexbox introduced in CSS 3. Here we will go through all the necessary CSS properties of Flexbox to get started with it. In the end of the video, you'll be able to comfortably create layouts in Flexbox easily by yourself. So let's get started. I've already bootstrapped my project with just simple boilerplate using partial. It's nothing but a module bundler in a sense, and I'm using just this for hot reload. And you can also use any VS Code extension available as well. So before starting Flexbox, let's describe its a bit of history. So before Flexbox was introduced, it was really difficult or impossible to achieve layout in convenient and flexible way, like vertically centering a content inside its parent, or making all children of a container take up equal amount of available width and height regardless of how much width and height is available, or maybe making columns in a multiple column layout add up the same height even if they contain a different amount of content, or simply saying issue of equal height. So Flexbox has made our lives much easier in that sense. So let's see it in action. Here I have created a div with three div inside of it and named it Flex Container 1. And we will write some CSS and we'll go one by one with the Flexbox properties. So first we just wrote the property display flex. Well, to just get started with Flexbox, all we need to do is display property to flex right here, and that's it. Let's take a look at some of the, and let's style a little bit as well. So if we just see this one right here, our elements are already flex property enabled. So in other sense, it specifies the type of the box used by the HTML element. The box type we have used is flex. As you can see here, it's display flex. Now let's understand some of the technical terms used for Flexbox properties. So the main axis right here, the main axis is the axis running in the direction of flex items. These are flex items. The blue ones are flex items. In our case, these white ones are flex items, and the red is flex container. So here it's read flex container and flex items, and then the axis of the flex items is the main axis, and the cross axis is the axis running perpendicular to the direction of the flex items that are being laid out. And the flex container is obviously it's the parent element like display flex, which the red color has. And then the flex items here are obviously the boxes inside the flex container, and the cross axis is the axis running perpendicular to the direction of flex items, and the start is the start of the axis, and the end is the end of the axis, and the main start and main end goes respective to the main axis. So I think these are okay for us to move ahead. Now I have divided this particular video into two parts. The first part is actually properties for the parent container. So right here we can see we will be discussing in the first part the properties introduced in the parent container, that is the red box right here. What are the properties that are available for us that we can use regarding Flexbox to the parent property. And the second part we will discuss about is the child properties for the child elements, these boxes 1 to 3. So the first property we would like to discuss about is flex direction. So flex direction, it's actually it defines how the flexbox items are ordered within a flexbox container. So as we can see here, let's make another div for now, and we can name it 2. So let's first introduce the parent properties, that is flex direction. And the flex direction The available flex direction properties are column reverse, row reverse, initial, inherit, and unsent. So first, let's go with row. Let's save this one, and then as you can see, we don't have any change. Why? Because in default, the flex direction for the flex display flex property has a flex direction of row in default. So we can make it column, and as you can see, we have changed the child to column, as it was in default it was row. So yeah, that's the difference. And then we can also try out row reverse. So a row reverse, what it does, it does exactly opposite to what we have right here, and reverse each of the boxes 3 to 1, 1 to 3, and we can also see it in action over here. So the next property would be column reverse, and it's the same. Sorry. It's the same, but we have the reversed in the columns 3 to 1, and then I think these are okay for now regarding flex direction. And now let's discuss about another parent property called Flexwrap. So Flexwrap, it is actually if a Flexbox item appear on a single line or multiple lines within a Flexbox container, it's called Flexwrap. So here we have just 3 items in one row. So in case we need to we have a different mini boxes, then we can see it in action right here, like define it flex wrap to no wrap, and then add some of the divs right here. So we have 10 divs right here, 1 2 3 4 5, and then until 10. Then we have used flex wrap property to no wrap. So the flexbox items here using flex wrap no wrap will remain on a single line no matter what, and eventually overflow if needed. So actually we can see no matter what, it stays in one line and overflow when we shrink on this one. Now let's change no wrap to wrap, and let's save this one. And then as you can see that the flexbox item will be distributed in multiple lines if needed, and it wraps itself. So the word itself is pretty much clear. And then we can also use wrap reverse in a sense where we want to like reverse the order 1 to 3 and then 10 9 8 7 6. I think these are okay to understand flex wrap. Now let's discuss about another property, and it's called uh, align items. So inside align items, it's actually how flexbox items are aligned according to the cross axis. So we have discussed what cross axis is. It's the axis on the y. So right here we can use align items property inside our parent. So we are discussing still in the parent side. So align items and then flex start. So what it does is as you can see, we don't have any change behind the scene. Actually the flexbox items are aligned to the start of the cross axis, and by default the cross axis is vertical. It means the flexbox items will be aligned vertically on the top. And as you can see, in default, the cross axis is vertical, obviously, and the flexbox item are aligned vertically on the top. So now the another property for flex items, let's use flex end. So as you can see, it reverse in a sense that it's not aligned on the top, but it's aligned at on the bottom. So that's the difference between these two. So now let's discuss about another property called align items center. So centering Centering it would obviously align this stuff to center. It's neither top nor bottom, and the Flexbox items are aligned center to the Flexbox parent. The another property would be stretch. As you can see, the Flexbox items are stretched. How long one particular item inside the Flexbox container item is. It's a 60 pixels of height. Then all the items are stretched to 60 pixels. If it's 600 pixels, then all the items are stretched to 600 pixels. That's Flexbox alumni items stretch. So now the next property let's discuss about is align content. So align content property is used to align the flex lines. In this example right here, we have a flex wrap to wrap and then align content to, let's suppose, stretch for now, and then give it a height of let's say 400 pixels for now. As you can see that it's stretched in a sense that the stretch value is 400 pixels because its height is 400 pixels and the flex item stretches 400 pixels as well. The value stretches the flex lines to take the remaining space, and it is by default it's a default property of align content, which is stretch. So now let's move on to another one, that is align content to flex start. Here as you can see, if it's shrink down the window, and then we can see that each line will only fit to the space it needs, and it will move towards the next line or at the start of the Flexbox grid container that is cross axis, which is this one right here. That's flex start. If we change this one to flex end, then we can distinguish the difference. And then as you can see, we have the Flexbox items in the end and start. It just was in the top. Now let's move on to another property, that is center. So it just simply centers the element of the height that is provided to them, that is 400 pixels. Now the next property is align content space between. So space between, just each line will only fill the space it needs, and the remaining space will appear between the lines. As you can see, the remaining space appears between the lines, and when we use space between. The last property in align content is space around. As you can see that each line will only fill in the space it needs in this case, and then the remaining space will be equally distributed around the lines. Let's move on to another property, and another property is justify content. It is also inside our flex parent. So justify content, and then for now space, let's discuss. What the justify content does is it defines how the Flexbox grid items are aligned according to the main axis. This one. In our case, it's a row. A row is our main axis, which is this one, and then which is the default one as well. The Flexbox grid items are pushed towards the start of the container's main axis in flex start, whereas in space between we have the remaining space distributed between the Flexbox grid items. If we just write flex start and then As you can see that the items are pushed towards the start of the container main axis. So if we just change this to end, and then it's pushed towards the end of the main axis. So now and then we can use center as well. It's in the center of the main axis, and space around, and with this we have the remaining space distributed around the Flexbox items evenly, and this adds space before the first item and also the last one as well. So whereas in the space between, it doesn't add any space before the first and the last, but whereas in space around, it does add. So I think we are all fine for our parent Flexbox properties. Now let's learn about the child properties used inside, for the Flexbox properties. For now, let's start with FlexGrow. Add a FlexGrow property to our first, the one class that we have. Our first div, the one class name is one, and add a FlexGrow of 0 for now. And as you can see that we don't have any effect on this one. Actually, the element will not grow if there is space available. It will only use the space if it needs. So right now it's 0, and if we change it to 1, then we can see the element will grow by a factor of 1, and it will fill up the remaining space that we have inside the Flexbox container in the red color. So and no other Flexbox item has a FlexGrow value. So right now it's just class of 1, and we just add this grow to inside this one. And as you can see, 2 of our Flexbox items have the FlexGrow of 1, and we can see the difference here. And if we change this one to 2 and save this one, and as you can see, because of the FlexGrow value, which is relative, its behavior also actually depends upon the value of the Flexbox item siblings. So in this example, we can see the 2 is twice bigger than 1, and obviously all of the columns are evenly distributed respective to the FlexGrow value that we assigned. So now let's move on to another property, and the another property would be order. So inside order, it's a really interesting property that we have. So order, a property of which is used inside the Flexbox item, defines the order of the Flexbox item. So to make it clear, let's write. So as you can see, the order of Flexbox items are is the one that is defined in the HTML code here. So the first is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's respective to that order. So if we want to manipulate that order, then we can use the Flexbox order property inside our Flexbox items. So right here, this one is the container, and this one is the item. We are going after the items. So it's order of 0. So it doesn't have any change because it's ultimately it's 0. But if we change this to 2, and then we can see this one is black, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and fifth one is here. So and order is default, it's 0, and then we can write 1, and as you can see, the order it had is 1, so it stays at the last of the elements, Flexbox item elements. So the order is relative to the Flexbox item siblings. The final order is defined when all individual Flexbox item order values are taken into account. So we can also use negative numbers like -1, and it is exactly opposite to the one that we gave it right here. So in the last item, we can use 1 to make it a first item. We can we can just put the value of -1. So without the respective of the hierarchy that we define in the HTML code, we can also set the order values to any numbers, like from -1 1 to -100, or -99, or -5, or +5, +100, anything. So let's keep this one, and then we can write -1 here. As you can see, let's as you can see, that's the first one, it's the last one. So let's make the order of -4, and then add a class name of 3 here. So as you can see that the order has been changed: 1 blue, pink, and then black, and then blue, which is -4, and pink -3, and then which is black 1. So now let's move on to another one, which is called flex shrink. Now let's move on to flex basis. It defines the initial size of the flexbox height. So let's use flex basis here. Here we can write flex basis and write order for now. So actually this is a default value, so we don't see any change here. But if we write flex basis to 80 pixels, and we can see some changes. So yeah, as you can see that we have predefined pixel value. The element will wrap its content and avoid any overflow, and we can see it in action as well, and it doesn't like overflow the items inside as well. Yeah, so now let's move on to another property, FlexGrow, and write it 200 pixels for now, and then flex shrink to around 1, and then flex basis to around 200 pixels for now, and then we can use flex shrink and give it the value of 3 for now. And then as you can see, we have as you can see that we have successfully did our flex shrink. So what flex shrink does is it defines how much flexbox items should shrink. So right now it shrinked 3. We give the value of 3, so it shrinked thrice as much as the other div. And if we change this to 1, which is default, it doesn't show any behavior. So and assigning it the value of 0, then what we can see is the element will not shrink, it will retain the width it's needed, and it will also not wrap its content. Obviously it will also not wrap its content, and its sibling will shrink to the given space as well. And then using a flex shrink value of 2, then what we can see is because of the flex shrink value is relative, and its behavior depends on the value of the flexbox item sibling. We can see that the item blue, which is the flex shrink of 2, is quite strict, or it's 50% of these Flexbox items. So now let's move on to another one, align self. So what align self does is it works like align items, which we have discussed before, and it only applies to a single Flexbox item instead of all of them. So for now, we can try out here, and if we just save it, then we don't see much difference because the target will use the value of align items, which is also the default value in itself. And then as you can see that we have assigned our CSS property, or wrote our CSS property to this element, and which is flex start, which stayed at the start of the flex items on the top. So if we just switch this to flex end, it would rather stay at the bottom. So it only applies to uh, a single Flexbox item. And then we can also have other properties like center, and then we can see it's aligned to the center uh, right here. And we can also use other properties like stretch, which was kind of default one, but it's not the default one. Actually, auto is the default one. We can also use baseline to align this to a baseline. So it somewhat works like align items, but the quite different is about it only applies to a single box Flexbox item instead all of them. So guys, I hope you got some initial ideas on creating your layout with Flexbox. This was actually just a basic introduction to Flexbox, and those who haven't used Flexbox in their layouts with CSS. So I'm really glad. Thank you for watching my videos. If you guys want to learn more about code design and something more, please like, share, and subscribe with a click down below. I'll be trying to make more better videos like this. So uh, I have also pasted some links that I have taken reference to this particular video, and I'll see you in the next one.